Welcome back. I'm Tedward, and welcome to my 2022 Honda Civic Si in its first snow. It's not a lot of snow, just a dusting, but enough to get a vibe for what it might be like to drive this car in the winter. So first, let's get this thing started. We'll talk about tires, we'll talk about fun, we'll talk about why I think it's a... Oh, there we go. I thought it was ice shut already. Oh, that's my least favorite thing to happen. But you got to get this off the seat while the car's still cold, or else then it just gets wet. Oh, this is not the way I wanted to start this video. No, we're gonna have a cold butt. All right, guys, there's your argument for seat heaters. Ooh, very cold out right now. So we do have a rear defroster, which also does the mirrors. That's pretty exciting. And before I use the windscreen wipers or anything, normally I'd use a brush, but this is just such light, fluffy snow. No real need to do damage with an ugly, wiry brush. Now, when you're wiping down your cars, typically, if there's a lot of buildup, a lot of snow, you're gonna want to get all of this off the car, because you don't want to be dumping snow on the people on the road. But this is really just light, fluffy stuff. You're not gonna injure anybody. But mainly, as long as you have visibility and your windows are not completely snowed in, that's the big ticket, other than the dangers of big chunks of ice falling off your car. But let's get a satisfying wipe of the wipers here. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Don't do this with really heavy packed snow, just because you put a lot of strain on the wiper motors, but this is just fluffy stuff. No big deal here. All right, so first things first, we are on some fairly crummy all-season tires. Not ideal for the snow. Snow tires are important, and I shouldn't just call them snow tires. They're winter tires, because it's not just about the tread pattern, it's about the compound. And having a good winter tire means that when it's 28 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll have better adhesion to even dry or wet pavement, regardless of snowfall. That's important because that means the compound is softer. It would wear much quicker, especially in higher temperatures, but it's gonna give you a lot better adhesion to the road in the cold temps. So we don't have a temp gauge in this car, which is annoying. I'm excited to get that in my Type R, but we do have our little cold water guy there, which tells us driving in this kind of weather always requires an additional level of respect, because when you're in a low friction environment, regardless if there's actually snow covering the ground or if it's just wet and potentially icy, that temperature gauge makes a big difference on how you're going to approach the situation. Because if the ground is below freezing and they have not treated with salt, you may be greeted with slippery roads that, regardless of the tire you're on, is not going to end well for you. So you always want to approach these types of days with caution, with a lower speed, and with a much longer anticipation time when it comes to making any turns or movements. Understeer is what's going to get you caught up in most situations, unless you get on the power, and then oversteer is the problem in a rear-wheel drive car, or some all-wheel drive cars, depending on the bias. Today, we're just in a very sort of ordinary front-wheel drive environment. Makes it a bit safer, a bit more predictable, but also means that I cannot correct the line of the car very quickly if things go wrong, because I can't swing that tail out. All I can do is induce or reduce understeer. But when you're on stuff like this, it's a good idea to practice and just see, how long is it going to take me to stop this car? There's our traction control. And it's a lot longer than you think. So, like I said, just always treat the environment with respect, because if you are going to go and have some fun in inclement conditions, things can get bad for you. Curbs, they can get awfully close. Look, we'll understeer. Not much there, not much grip there. And you get better at reading surfaces as well. You'll see the difference between pavement, no pavement, but oftentimes you won't see the difference between pavement and black ice. So why don't I have snow tires on this car yet? Well, that's a great question. And there is a logical solution or answer to that. There's some understeer as we spin our way in. My Type R is coming at the end of December. And normally I would have switched to snow tires by about Thanksgiving. Mid-November is about when I typically transfer from my summers to my winters. The problem is I don't have winters for the SI, and because I knew that the Type R was coming at the end of December, I didn't buy winter tires for this car. And you'd think, well, why don't you just buy a set of wheels and tires for the SI and then pop them on the Type R? Well, that's because the bolt pattern is different on a Type R compared to an SI. So I cannot actually take SI wheels and put them on the Type R. That's a bummer, which means that I'm going to receive my Type R on PS4Ss, and I'm going to have to find a solution to that very quickly. I'm thinking again of the Vredestein Windtrack Pro. I really enjoyed that tire on my M3, so that is likely going to be the tire that goes on the Type R. We shall see, but I'm going to go down an inch, so I'm going to go to an 18-inch wheel for the Civic Type R. It's currently on a 19, which is already down an inch from the FK8, the previous generation, which was a 20, which, people busted a lot of wheels and tires on those because there was not enough sidewall. Pretty good grip. This is what happens when you've got a well-treated road. But remember, if it's treated where you are, it may not be treated in 100 feet. You may feel all kinds of good grip and then hit the next corner and ooh, it's all gone. I am a little bummed that most front-wheel drive, or really any cars, don't have handbrakes anymore, because a good handbrake turn is a good time. Right now we've got these little flappy parking brake things, and they just don't allow for any fun. They don't allow for you to really get the tail out in an aggressive fashion, which I like. I've had a ton of fun drifting around in front-wheel drive cars with a handbrake. I think it's a good time. I don't think there's any shame in that. Obviously, a rear-wheel drive car that'll power slide is more entertaining, and it's more, I think, skillful, just because you need the throttle control for it. But going sideways is going sideways. Very curious what this winter is going to have in store. Let's do a little brake check. ABS, full brakes. So just a heads up, that's the stopping distance you're going to have. Somebody runs out on the road, a dog, a deer, whatever, or something bad happens. You need to be prepared that you're not going to be able to stop. And when you come into sections like this, like if this guy turns toward me, if there was a lot of snow on the ground, I might have waited back there, because if he goes too hot into that corner, he's going to understeer directly into my car. And you can feel out the grip level of the street with the throttle. You can feel it with the brakes. This is how you gauge what kind of capability you have, what kind of grip level you're going to have. What you don't want to do is find out what the grip level is mid-corner. So, for example, if this is all covered in snow, I don't want to enter this hot. I want to enter this slow. Now, also, this is a one-way road, so I'm not just cutting off to the wrong side of the road, just to avoid that comment. But I do think, a brake check is one of the most important things you can do when you're driving in inclement weather. Just understanding where that level of grip is going to be, because bringing the car down is very important. This section of road has not been traveled on very much. It's not as treated as what was back there. So, you're going to want to be pretty aware of that, and aware of what tires do we have, right? Are we on a tire that's going to give us actual grip, or are we on a tire that's just going to break away? And what's the breakaway threshold? A really great winter tire has a slower breakaway threshold that's going to grip and grip and grip until it lets go. But a harder compound like this all season, it's not going to work that way. It's probably just going to be there and then be gone. Let's see if we've got any Christmas lights up here. You can hear all the junk getting thwapped up underneath the car. I should probably have gotten some mud flaps. Little understeer, just pop off that throttle if the car isn't turning. All right, so this is where I genuinely miss having a rear-wheel drive car, because right now I can't do anything. I can't get the car sideways. All I can do is understeer with throttle. That's not fun. I wonder if we can get a little rear-wheel drive going in reverse. Let's try it in reverse. All right, that's as much fun as we're gonna have like that. A little boring, but better than nothing. So there's a first look at a touch of snowfall in New England, beginning of the season. Nothing crazy. We don't have like wild accumulation or anything, but slippery roads. The town seems to be doing their job by keeping the roads clear and treated. Doesn't feel like there's much ice, but don't take that for granted. Always be prepared. And if you are new to this, if you aren't a good snow driver, or you're not an experienced snow driver, or winter driver for that matter, keep the speeds low. Keep the speeds really low. Get out there, find the limits a little bit by jumping on the brakes. And I assure you, once you realize how little stopping power you have when you're confronted with a slippery surface, you're gonna respect how little grip you have in a corner, entering a turn. And for that matter, pulling out into traffic with very little grip. Well, if there's not enough grip to accelerate, the car you're pulling out in front of doesn't have enough grip to stop. And you're gonna cause a big old accident. So take your time, plan accordingly. I gotta make that turn, just go by it. Just go by it, because if you've got to stand on the brakes and try to make a turn and there's no grip, well, you're in the trees or potentially into oncoming traffic, which is probably worse. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I'm looking forward to some snow content and my snow tires on my Civic Type R that's coming up pretty soon, but I figured we'd at least get out there and see the adequate but mediocre performance of these all seasons on the SI before she is traded. Thanks for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. Can you see the deer out there? There's 2 deer standing. Oh, there's 3. There's one behind the rock, too. You see that? Let's see. Look at you. Look at this guy off in the distance. That's wild. What are you guys up to? Hey, bud. Having fun in the snow? You're not going to attack me on video, Jesus.